Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this evening with our new friend Zach of Parader. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Sunday night.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your band? I feel like you guys are fairly new, but you do have an EP coming out.
We're sort of new and old. It's an interesting thing because a few of us were in a band together years ago called Line in the Main, and we that kind of fizzled out and we all sort of went our separate ways. You know, I went to grad school, everybody else sort of got, normal jobs, and, things sort of, life, moved on. I ended up moving out of that and touring in a Blink-182 tribute for a few years I still have. But yeah, no, I mean, when the pandemic hit, that was sort of, that was the moment that all of us sort of reconnected, and we were like, we have songs that we never put out, and let's try doing this again. Let's rebrand and, grab maybe one or two new members and see what happens. And so far it's been unbelievable. So, I mean, this is evidence that it's going well. We're getting press. Thank God.
You're here. You're here on the podcast.
We are here. This is success.
So what kind of made you trigger that moment during like quarantine and everything that says like, yo, we got to get the band back together?
I mean, it was just one of those things where like, because it was so unknown, like how much time it would take to get life back together, we all sort of, I don't know, we just got bored. I think it was partially boredom, partially stress, partially just like, what are we supposed to do with ourselves? And the great thing about this EP that's coming out, we ended up being able to rope in a bunch of our other friends who were in pop punk bands that we, played shows with over the years, and we were like, hey, do you want to cut drums for us on a track? Or hey, do you want to do some gang vocals? And everyone was like, well, yeah, I'm just sitting in my room doing nothing, so sure. It was honestly, it was a perfect opportunity to get stuff done because everyone was looking for work, everyone was looking to do stuff, and like, from the people mixing and mastering it, I mean, everyone was just like, we don't know how to stop, so we don't want to. So
Fair.
I mean, the pandemic was just, it gave a lot of people, including us, I guess, the luxury of time, to sort of sit back and go, yeah, we should maybe revisit that. That was cool when we did that.
This is one of the issues I'm having right now as we're like going back into the real world. Shows are happening. People are existing outside of the internet and in person and talking face to face with each other again. And I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm like, I would just love it if we could just go back into quarantine and like let's just like go back to playing Among Us and like just never go outside again. Like that'd be a beautiful time to revisit, and like having that opportunity to do all that stuff because you don't have anything else to do and you can like focus on, hey, I want to like make some music with my friends because we all have the technology and we don't even have to like be in the same place to do it. It's like, yeah, I kind of like, I feel like that's not going to happen again. And now I'm like getting nostalgic for the pandemic. And I hate myself.
That was such a nice way of saying people suck, by the way.
It's a roundabout way.
That was totally the gist of what you were saying. I just appreciate how you said it.
But the only way I want to communicate with people is through Among Us, where I'm killing people and then lying about it. And that is my preferred way of interaction.
Hey, man, most offices are still hybrid and people aren't back yet. So it's, we're still going through it a little bit, I think.
Definitely. I do not want to return to an office ever again. And I can imagine that. I don't know. I'm like, well, musicians for the most part, your office is the venue, and it's like getting spit on by an artist is like just kind of normal,
I mean, that's been such a strange thing to watch. I mean, so outside of being in the band, my day job is a booking agent. So I work with a lot of like 90s and 2000 hip hop acts now. And, a lot of what I was doing was just sort of touching base with talent buyers and promoters over the course of the pandemic going, hey, do you have any idea when things are going to reopen? I mean, because basically like it was just a giant question mark for everybody. And routing tours and trying to get holds and all that stuff was kind of a pointless exercise because, you could go ahead and say, hey, I would love, March of 2021, but who knew if that was going to be doable, So everyone was it was a lot of waiting and seeing. And I think that there was a huge amount of anxiety in the live sector, I think, during the pandemic that I certainly felt. But I mean, I think, now that things are reopening, it's tentatively, I think people are getting, at least a little happier, hopefully.
They need their 90s and early 2000s hip hop acts. They're just ready for it now.
Oh yeah. Ever since the Super Bowl, that's going to be hot.
True.
Oh man.
So other than that though, so you said that you work as a talent buyer, a booker, and you also just worked and collaborated with a lot of other artists, including some of them being Mark Rose of Spitalfield. So can you let us know how that kind of all came to fruition?
Man, Mark, I honestly don't even remember how I met Mark. I mean, it's one of those things where you go back and you play so many shows with people and you're just like, oh yeah, where did we meet? We're friends, but I cannot pinpoint where the first interaction was. So there were people like that we sort of just met randomly at shows over the years. And, also Toby McAllister from Sparks the Rescue and Ryan Kinley from Matchbook and Ben Cato from The Dangerous Summer, those were a bunch of the guys who we sort of pulled in because, I mean, when it was 2009, 10, 11, whatever, everyone would play the same kind of circuits. These guys would come through New York and we would open for them at the studio at Webster Hall. And, I think right before I joined Lion in the Main, they did a full-on tour with Sparks the Rescue in Kingsfoil with Frankie Muniz. So that was...
All
so
right.
there was, I guess there was, yeah, dude. Apparently, this kid played
Frankie
drums.
Muniz, a big fat liar.
Yeah, of Malcolm in the Middle. Apparently, Malcolm played some drums.
Yeah, Malcolm in the Back.
I don't know how well he played them, but he did. Well. But yeah, man. I mean, it's all these weird 6 degrees of separation where I mean, particularly in the emo scene, everybody knows everybody, and if they don't, they know someone in common. So it's whether it's a tech, whether it's someone who played guitar on one tour. I mean, everyone's connected somehow. I've learned in the emo scene, particularly just because it was initially such a niche, and now it's mainstream. It's so weird to think that it kind of is now.
Yeah, it's a mainstream sellout. I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
I had to do it.
You did it to him.
I had to do it to him. I mean, we know Mark Rose just because he's in Chicago, but I saw him play a real small show a long time ago, and I was like, damn, dude, you're really good. And he's like, yeah, thanks. And then all my friends are like, he's from Spitalfield, dude. I'm like, what? I don't know.
It's you realize he was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, especially here where it's we have 2 emo bands and one of them's Fall Out Boy and
right. I was gonna say the other one is the Academies.
Yeah, that's true. We have very few. We gotta take our take what we get, and they're all from the north suburbs where I grew up, and so I'm like, yeah, let's be friends. And then we saw Spitalfield reunited for Riot Fest, and one of the guys and the guitarist in the band was like, hey, I hope you're all having a good time. And I was wearing a pink shirt and I was really far in the back and I was doing an Instagram story. And he's like, you in the pink shirt back there, I hope you're having a good time. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, Mark, you need to talk to your friend, man. That guy outed me in front of the entire Riot Fest audience.
So you're just back there with a few thousand people hi.
Yeah, just pink shirt.
I'm the dude with the phone.
Yeah, hi, guys. And then everybody, I was walking around later in the day and people were like, dude, are you pink shirt guy from Spitalfield? I'm like, I don't know how to answer this question.
That was your legacy for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, pink shirt guy. That's me. And this is very esoteric, but it was a Dragon Ball Z bright pink shirt that said Bad Man on the back. So then people were seeing it and they're like, is that Bad Man? I'm like, nah, I stand by it.
Pink shirt, bad man.
Pink shirt, bad man.
Pink shirt, Spitalfield, bad man.
You should change that to your Twitter name. instead of your name. It's just that.
Yeah, I'll reference something from like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, you know, make it niche, make it cool,
Which
and
is the
only
last time I was on
the
Twitter,
select
too.
few know.
Oh my
Lord.
God.
Yeah, so we know him, and Dangerous Summer, you just played with them, right? Like,
Yeah, that was super clutch. We go back with those guys through sort of similar strange circumstances. One of my miscellaneous gigs back in the day was tour managing Dave Elkins from May and his short-lived side project, and we ended up doing a few South by shows and a few shows through like Texas and California, I think, with the Dangerous Summer. So I knew, you know, AJ and Matt Kennedy and all those guys from there, and I think John and Dimitri from the two guitar players / writers in Parader also knew them from playing South by with them and all that fun stuff. So that was sort of being able to come back and play with them in Florida, where, you know, half of the band is from, was really a cool thing. I mean, you know, just seeing that crew again, because it'd been years, honestly, since we'd hung. So yeah, I mean, they're great. They put on such a fun show. I mean, you know, AJ is still AJ, and he's, you know, he is still a presence on stage, man. They're fun to watch, and they're such fun dudes to hang out with too. That, you know, I mean, that's the fun thing about the scene, you know, is like, for the most part, everyone's pretty laid back, and it's just like, you know, when they hop up on the main stage at Riot Fest, it's like, yeah, I'm just a dude who does a thing, and that happens to be the thing I do. But, you know, they get off stage and they're completely normal, you know. It seems like there's very little room for ego, you know, and those bands don't last very long, I guess.
here's hoping.
Here's
about
hoping.
MGK.
So
Sorry, I gotta keep
tell me
bringing
how
it
you
up.
really feel. Man,
Yeah.
I'm dying at the fact that he's being credited with like the renaissance of pop punk as if it went away, you know, like are we just going to ignore the fact that like Set It Off and the Wonder Years and all these bands have been playing constantly this entire time?
It's
And
just
we're
more
just
like
going to give this disgraced rapper all the credit? Like, come on now.
it's more of like in the mainstream, because that's where it comes to. But if anything, it really should be Travis Barker, because
And John Feldman, those two.
Yes.
and at least Travis, yeah, Brian loves Mr. John. But Travis Barker has been like basically the one behind it, because without him, none of these MGK anything would really exist.
Dude,
without it.
He is the pop punk Timbaland. Like, I sort of
Damn, that is a very
I've been
good
drawing-
reference.
Just because, like, you know, back in the day, Timbaland was on every record.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
And now Travis is on every record. And it's
Like,
dude, it's great. I mean, you know, he's the reason so many people started playing drums. So for him to be everywhere now, I'm sure it's like vindication for a lot of kids who are like, yes.
Oh yeah, there's so many people who are so upset about it now, and I'm just like, but like, you wanted pop punk to be back in the mainstream, like you gotta give and take, my guy. Like if Travis Barker is on all these people's like features, like cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's got the magic touch, man. I mean, you know, and it seems like he's got, I don't know if he's got a formula, but, you know, whatever he does with these people seems to be working.
Yeah, it's very much, and being that you're a booker for a lot of like the 90s hip hop and all that, is like even with Timbaland, it was just like the sound of it and the feel of it, and like the way that you would craft like a pop song and put it out on the radio, and you're like, yeah, this just feels good. I'm enjoying the sound. I'm enjoying like the moment of it. And I feel like Travis Barker is making music of the moment with like hip hop artists and combining all these genres together, doing all this stuff. Cause I do remember that Timbaland did a song with Patrick Stump and Fall Out Boy, and it was awesome. Right. And so good. So yeah, it's like, just let's work with all of these artists. Let's just bring everything to the table. Work with older artists like Avril. Work with new artists. You know, just put it all together.
Yeah, it's so funny to see that too. Like, I mean, you know, with guys like Mod Sun and Avril's huge again, and you know, this is like, I mean, it's like 2002 TRL era. You know, and it's. So for all of us who remember the first wave, it's kind of like, this is such a trip.
So I'm assuming here with that, you're in the same camp of Avril Lavigne as like emo pop punk, because I've seen people on TikTok absolutely lose their fucking minds and go, she was never emo, she was never pop punk. I'm like, have you never listened to Nobody's Home in like the corner of your room and cried as like a 14-year-old? Or like,
I mean, all you had to do was watch the Complicated video and go, what other conclusion would you jump to? What else would you call that?
Like, skateboards, pop, maybe, stripes, ties, you're in.
Yeah, I mean, like, there was a reason pop punk was so big, and it was because there was a pop formula. Like, a lot of people, maybe they're jumping on her just because, you know, she put out that hey you I don't like your girlfriend. Yeah, like, because that
entire album bangs though. Like, yeah, I love that album.
And that was an unabashed pop hit, but like, so.
Yeah,
she's an artist. She can do what she wants.
Do whatever she wants. I think we look back at it now, like as a younger person hearing that for the first time, I was like, man, what the fuck? Like, this is so like lame, and you're just like using it to like get popular, and who even cares? And now I'm like, nah, dude, shit rips. Like, like I used to very much not like Miley Cyrus, and now she's like one of my favorite artists. Like, I'm just like,
true. He loves her.
I love Miley Cyrus, and I'm just like,
what brought about that change? I'm curious.
Mostly my girlfriend, but also seeing her at Lollapalooza, because she's a huge fan. So we went to her night at Lollapalooza, and I was like, holy shit, this is one of the best live performances I've ever seen. Like, her voice is so on point. The songs are being performed really well. She brought out like Billy Idol and the Kid Laroi to do her song with him, and like
that was
all kinds of shit. It was fantastic.
Yeah, she's been like sort of channeling Joan Jett vibes recently, which I'm just like all for. You know?
Oh yeah, like the thing is that her voice can do it, and she does it really well. But again, more people have been like criticizing her, like, you're just trying to jump on a train. And I'm like, if she wanted to jump on a train, she would be churning out a bunch of pop punk hits. She's channeling like vintage rock, like 80s energy.
The train is Fleetwood Mac, like, so good. Everybody should be on that train.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you know, and it's funny because I always wondered about her with the, you know, shedding the whole Hannah Montana thing, you know, with Disney stars, getting away from that initial image of yourself has to be one of the most terrifying things ever, because you know that there was a conversation with, you know, the manager and the label going, you're going to lose a lot of your base if you do this. And she was just like, okay, if that happens, fine, I'll make new fans, you know. And that you know, that sort of impresses me about her too, for sure, that she just was like, I'm gonna go 180 in the other direction and not give a shit.
Lizzie is our resident Disney Channel expert.
Yes,
can you speak to that as far as Miley and the Jonas Brothers and all of your faves?
Yeah, all my faves. No, when everybody did do that, that was obviously like the coming of age moment, because, you know, we were also, at least for me, I was like also around that same age. So I was like, well, what are they going to do? Like, this is like little kids stuff. Disney Channel was like kind of like in between as well, like programming wise. So then you have the Jonas Brothers branching off in general, and then you also have Miley Cyrus doing it, but also like going complete unhinged energy. So you have a lot of like people who are really upset about it. And obviously you lose fans just because people are like, what is going on? Like, this is a cognitive disconnect. But she kept on strong and made a new adult audience. It was kind of like what Justin Bieber did too, because Justin Bieber was more of like a Radio Disney artist originally. Also, My World Smacks. That is a great album. But he did the same thing. He went and he got more adults, and people were like shell shocked by it. But I think because they stuck with it is what kind of brought him out more. Jonas Brothers has had a lot of issues though with it. Like when they, for example, they always perform, since they came back, they performed DNCE's, was a Joe Jonas's side project, Cake by the Ocean. So it's a censored version. They're supposed to say fuck in it, but they don't even play it live anymore because they had played a censored version, because there's still so many like families and kids tied to it. So there's somebody who's like, we branched off and we're adults and we're married, we have kids, we talk about, you know, sex and doing drugs and drinking, but like, you can't say like fuck in your song still because it's still so tied to like a family thing. I think it's so weird how that happened, but I think that also could have been because they broke up, whereas Miley just like kept going. So we saw that evolution. I think if you were able to see the evolution, but also with like, this was after my time. This was where my siblings' time was Shake It Up with Zendaya and Bella Thorne. So Zendaya was able to make that transition without that many issues. Like, good for her. But Bella Thorne went like complete unhinged energy, and not in like the good way either. She went in and she, started doing a lot of these different, more like provocative and like adult movies. Yeah. And is still doing like adult content, which, you know what, good for her, whatever works. But, she kind of fell off on the radar. So now she's kind of in that, I don't want to say disgrace, but kind of like, hey, you could have done what Zendaya did if you played your cards right, but you didn't.
Could have been in
And
Spider-Man.
now you're doing this instead. Yeah, you could have been the other, whatever is in Spider-Man.
Okay. That's the side of Disney that I understand. You can understand your side of Disney.
Listen, we got to have a split here, all right?
Yeah.
Different generations.
I always wondered, man, I was like, I wish I could be a fly on the wall in like a Midwestern family's living room when they're watching the Wrecking Ball video for the first time, expecting Hannah Montana and seeing
Oh, no,
that.
I watched it with my mom, and she was like, what is she doing? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, man, she came in like a wrecking ball. What are we going to do?
Oh, she's there. Look what she's doing. It's like, why is she doing that? I don't know. Because she's like, what, 21, something like that? She doesn't want to be Hannah Montana anymore?
Because she's not 16 anymore?
Yeah.
And like, to bring it back to emo music, I'm like, that's kind of where all these bands, like Blink-182, I'll use as an example, wrote a bunch of songs as high schoolers, and now they're like 50 with kids, and they're like, I mean, Tom's obviously doing Angels and Airwaves, but it's like, you're now firmly adults. There's nothing you can do to make yourself like write songs for high schoolers. So those songs that you wrote as high schoolers, you may not feel anymore. Actually, Kenny from the Starting Line said this when I saw them live once, and he's just like, yeah, I can't even sing these anymore because I'm not 16 and my voice is gotten worse over time as I grew up, and like, I can't sing these songs that I wrote when I was in high school. And it's very like your audience, I guess it's like, where do you, and maybe you have some insight on this too, is like, if you are creating an audience that is around your age, and then your audience should grow up with you, I think. Like, so if you're expressing like these thoughts as you're going through life, your audience kind of stays at the same age range or the same like experience level.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny you bring up Kenny, because I was literally just thinking of a conversation I had with him years ago. It's funny, I worked with him. I had a brief foray into the weed business, and we put out a Vacationer weed strain. Okay. One of the greatest things I've ever done was give Kenny Vasoli his own weed strain. Mm-hmm. But I remember asking him about this very thing, about playing the songs off of Say It Like You Mean It. And the point he made wasn't so much about physically being able to do it. It was just because he wrote these songs as a 16-year-old, I always asked him, just like, is it like, the Hanson brothers having to play Mbop every night, and he was like, it is sort of like looking at kid pictures of yourself and cringing, but the other side of that is that it created such a movement. It helped create such a movement, and that record means so much to so many people that fact sort of overshadows the embarrassment of having to sing lyrics that you wrote as a heartbroken high schooler. I mean, I think it's just sort of the way, and with them too, and the way their albums progressed, like, everyone who loves Say It Like You Mean It, to my knowledge, also likes Direction, and that's and that was a really mature album for them, and that's something that they love. That even Kenny, he was like, I'm very proud of that record. Like, I've heard him say that before, and to me, I think crowds, particularly with this genre, the fans are so loyal that even if with Fall Out Boy getting super pop, the diehards, there's some diehards still there, They're not ever going to go away. I mean, they'll go, they'll sit through, the Save Rock and Roll era to hear some stuff off of Take This to Your Grave, because that album was so important to so many people. So I think it's honestly, it's a testament to the songs that came out at that point, that I think that's what carries fans forward. You know, I mean, there's a reason people still pack out Taking Back Sunday shows, and it's not like they're playing Tell All Your Friends front to back. You know, they're playing everything.
Yeah.
You know, I think once you have a band that you really care about, you don't really care. You know, you sort of you go, you know what? I love the songs that they wrote. They'll always play them. You know, if they were big enough, and that's enough for me.
I think this is why I'm kind of forgiving to a lot of like, I'm forgiving to the hate and the love of MGK and like all these newer artists, just because I'm like, this is your experience with that same thing. Like, right. Yes, MGK had a career as a different kind of artist, and some of these artists are like brand new, and maybe they won't even stay the same style and genre. But like, there are kids now in high school that are getting the same experience that we got with other bands that they didn't have a chance. And now those bands are like 45 years old. And it's like, well, I don't have a mortgage. What am I supposed to get out of this?
Right.
What am I dude, some girl broke my heart. She's going out with my best friend. I need a song for that. And Taking Back Sunday aren't doing that anymore. They're talking about Better Homes and Gardens. I don't even know what that magazine is.
They're talking about leaving their wife, and it's like, yo, I cannot relate.
Yeah.
Bestie, I'm so sorry for you. Sounds great, but
at least you had
I'm not old enough for that.
Right. And that's when you click that song off and you go back to Timberwolves of whatever.
Yeah. I go into Sink Into Me, be like, hey, remember when they played this on Degrassi? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
That song is an underrated banger.
That's how I found out about Taking Back Sunday, is I saw them on Degrassi as a mini, and I said, yo, that's cool. Oh,
boy.
Love it.
That gives you the age range of us. If the Disney Channel stuff didn't give you the age ranges, that did. Let's talk a bit about your EP coming out. It's called Something the Dreamer's Dream. If you're on the stream right now, it's coming out this Friday. If you're listening to this, it's already out. So you should have heard it, and you should already know everything about it as you're listening to this episode.
And you should already be running it up to 1 million streams.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mute it while it's still playing so you can listen to this podcast, and so it's like still streaming. And then when you're done with this, go right back to it, you know? Like, you know, gotta take a pause to listen to you talk about the EP before you go listen to the EP again.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, this EP, it's super special to us because a lot of these songs were either stuff that sort of died on the cutting room floor in our old project, or they were stuff that like was almost finished being written and not, you know, just we never got around to it. So, you know, I mean, John and Dimitri are the two guys that write everything, and, you know, I sort of, you know, as a bass player, you kind of you take a backseat a lot, and that's fine. I run all the business stuff, so you know that's my role.
Yes.
But you know, for me, it's, you know, watching the two of them and how they write and how they work off of each other. Like, I would not want to play with anybody else. Just I love the stuff that they write. So, I mean, I'm excited for the EP to come out. I'm also a little nervous just because right now rock music is very tied to pop punk, and, you know, sonically our EP is so not pop punk. Despite the fact that everybody that worked on it is in pop punk. Like,
I'm like, your list of personnel on it is like the most
ridiculous. Right. Like, I mean, the guy, you know, we just dropped a single called Save My Place, and it was mixed by Nick Rad from Acceptance, you know? So that, I mean, you know, that alone is, you know, should be an indication that it's like, you know, even if we sort of sound like, you know, the Counting Crows meets American Authors, if you look at our iPods, it's all like, you know, Under Oath, Every Time I Die, and Newfound Glory. Like, it's that stuff. Like, seriously, all of us, you know, we all have such different backgrounds, but it's weird because the Warped Tour scene was something that we could all agree on, even though that was never how John or Dimitri wrote songs. Like, you know, they're not writing pop punk stuff. But, you know, I think it's one of those things that I hope it'll sit well with the resurgence of instrument-based music. You know, I just hope there's an audience for it. You know, I hope that the pop punk, you know, scene is open to it, even if it's not, you know, even if it doesn't sound like MGK. But
I know when we listened to it, because I was like listening to it, I'm like, well, this sounds like more of like a radio type band, like a band that you would hear because it has all those like areas of like it's indie, it's a little bit easier to listen to than some of the pop punk that we probably hear nowadays too. And it's something that like you could listen to for a little bit of everybody and everyone will find something that they like about it, like regardless. So I think the fact that you're in that vein more is better. And I mean, the music sounds good too. Like there are radio hits that are absolutely fucking terrible. Lovely the band, but you are not Lovely the band.
Lizzie works in radio.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
I had
Richie?
I had to listen to that song "Broken" for way too long.
Man. I
had
can
to
imagine.
way too long. But there are songs that are, and I think a lot of the music from what we were sent over to preview is that a lot of your music that you have and the singles that you have as well, they stand out as ones that could be on that level. So I think it's something that is a good direction to take.
I hope so, man. You know, it's, you know, the thing that's always in the back of every musician's brain, whether they want to admit or not, is, you know, they're looking at what's big now. I mean, you know, when we put out an album as Line in the Main that sort of sounded like a Dangerous Summer record, but we dropped it in 2015 when the mainstream was very focused on, you know, female-fronted indie pop. So, like, you know, at that point, Betty Who was big, Verite was big, Tovlo was big, you know. So we sort of released it into a world that didn't really have any interest in it. So that's, you know, that's always the fear that I think most artists deal with. You know, you can do the best job that you can on the songs and you can be really proud of them, but it's like, man, what the hell's the world going to think? Hopefully they like them as much as we do. You know, all the feedback that we've gotten from people in the industry has been positive, but you know, it's not up to them and it's not up to us. It's up to you guys who are listening to this to either like it or hate it. So
yeah, to everybody to get 1,000 streams per person on it.
Put their votes in by streaming.
Yeah, that'll let you know.
It's interesting. We put out this single, "Save My Place," and it's still, you know, it's a rockin' thing. It's sort of of our songs. I think it's the one that's maybe the closest to that. And it got a great response, but it also got a huge response in South America for some reason, because I guess rock is huge there. I mean, every
to Brazil?
band, yeah, every band makes that crack. And the funniest thing is, our top 10 cities, at least 6 of them are in Brazil.
You're about to get so many comments.
Yeah,
Dude, I want to go back. I spent some time in Rio. It's beautiful. I'll tour South America before I tour the States. I don't care. Just give us the 10 to 15 grand we need for flights and visa fees.
Yeah,
we'll be there. And we'll
cover the costs.
Cover the costs, and we will be there tomorrow. But yeah, man, just, you know, to bring it back to the EP, I'm very excited about it. You know, as nervous as we are for it, I think, you know, we haven't regularly put out music in a long time, and we haven't put out a body of work in a long time, and I think I hope that you're right and that there is something for everybody on it. You know, we've got stuff that's, you know, sort of hooky and poppy, and then we've got, you know, tracks like Back and Forth that are sort of ABC Family acoustic sounding, and it's like, you know, we run the gamut, but we sort of stick in the pop rock lane, for lack of a better term, I guess. So, you know, we're stoked on it, and we hope you guys are too.
I mean, I do think that, like, a mom whose kid is getting really into radio rock now is not going to be like, well, you know, well, actually, okay, they might be. It's like, well, you know, I remember back in the day listening to pop punk back when, you know, Sticks and Stones by Newfound Glory was my record in high school. And it's like, Mom, I don't care. Whatever. But it's like, I think
you're gonna get the kid who is going to love Red Hot Chili Peppers. Be like, I don't care about Newfound Glory. I like Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I like the way that Flea plays that bass, man. He does a good job. And John Frusciante and Will Ferrell. So
that would be Brian's personal nightmare, really, is what it comes down to.
Kind of. I think that what it's like come to is more like there are these communities that are popping up, and it's kind of like, for the US at least, very like local, and community based in like cities and states and like conjoining, you know, cities you can tour to and all that. And people are building up these like kind of smaller communities within there. But it's also like way easier to get quote unquote popular in those sort of communities and not look to like the mom who's like, I don't know, from pop punk. I just, you know, as long as they're not swearing, I can put it on in the car. Right. And like a kid is like, I don't want to play this because they drop hard F's in here and I don't want to put that on while my mom's listening to it. But it's like, yeah, if you're writing good music, like you're still going to have that community that pops up. If not the community you're already in, then around you, if the music's good, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's good. I got to go see them. And then all of a sudden the basement's full. And that's a personal story. I used to play basements and it's like, yes.
Hell yeah, man.
Fine.
I was going to say, everything you were saying, I was like, is he talking about the basement circuit in Jersey right now?
No,
literally, that's what that was. Like, you know, that was, you know, Fall Out Boy and the early November and Midtown. They're all playing in each other's basements in northern New Jersey for years. And now they're selling out Starland, you know, it's like,
I know.
Well, there you go.
We had one basement. It's a venue called Penny Road Pub and it's no longer open.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's one of the only places in like the Chicago suburbs that had bands, like touring bands, come through, and they would always play downstairs, and it was essentially a basement of a bar. Right. And then the show would finish, and you go upstairs, and there's a cover band playing, and you're like, "Who are all these suburban moms that weren't at my show, but they were here for the Leonard Skinner cover band upstairs?"
God. Choices were made.
It's like we're in Barrington, guys. That's a local humor for everybody who is in Chicago and knows Barrington. It is lame and rich
and bougie.
And we're all jealous if you didn't live there. And
I was gonna say, it sounds like I'm trying to think of a parallel in New York, but Upper East Side, maybe.
Yeah, all you Upper East Siders or whatever. Hey, I don't know. It's my fake New York accent.
Whatever it means with that.
Hey, whatever.
You're trying to get into the gabagool again.
Look, you know, if you're gonna gobble my ghoul, you're gonna get what you got coming to you. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus.
Sounds like a euphemism for something, man.
I know. I don't know what it means, and I don't know.
We're gonna
if
find
anybody,
out one day.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's open to interpretation, as are most of the things that I believe that are New York statements, such as, "Hey, I'm walking over," is like, God. You know, do you need to say
that? No New Yorker has I've been living here for 15 years. I have not heard one person ever say that.
Brian is going to be that person.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me when I did say it when I was in New York, and they're like, nobody says that here. And I'm like, I just said it.
I know, my big one is not for nothing. That's the Brooklynism that comes out of my mouth more often than not. But
I love doing it because I'm not from there, but then we like talk to people from New York, and I'm like, I'm that guy who comes to New York and goes, I'm walking away.
You're the one that nobody wants to associate with.
Are you the one that everyone can look at you and just go, that guy's a tourist?
Yeah.
Are you looking up at the big buildings? Like
I do feel like walking through Brooklyn, I was very much like, I kind of fit in here. Like I didn't really go to Manhattan very much. Like my friends did a Broadway show, and I was like, I think I'm gonna like go do something else. Like they all knew this girl who was performing in, and I'm like, yeah, like I don't know her. Like I'm just kind of the outside. Like I've never met her. So y'all have a good time. I'm gonna go and do some other stuff. And just walking through Brooklyn, I'm like, yeah, I kind of just look like I'm from here. Like this, I look like literally everybody.
I was gonna say you could definitely be a Bushwick resident. I can see that.
I don't know how to feel. It's like one of those things where you're like, oh, like for us it'd be Wicker Park, and it's like, yeah, you look like you live in Wicker Park, and it's like,
it's like
don't put me in that.
Like the Williamsburg hipster version of Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of changed now because it got a lot like probably Williamsburg is like got really yuppie, and everybody started to move in.
Yeah, and then like single young families in the area, and you're like, why is this kid outside of the music venue? You're a baby. Go away.
So they closed the venues. It's
oh man. Is Wicker Park Fest still going on? I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah.
So that still goes on. That is one of our best street fests, and There's one like kind of down the way a little bit, which is Division Street Fest. And so, yeah, both of those do pretty well.
I just remember a bunch of my friends getting booked on Wicker Park Fest. Like, I think my friends in Pronoun were on that one. I think the Dangerous Summer was on that one. I feel like there was somebody else, but whatever. I mean,
they get a lot of people on there.
2018 was Against Me and Mass Intruder. Or no, Mass Intruder was 2019 or 2020. They did one in like 2021.
To me, Chicago has always been like a pop punk mecca. Like I know you guys said earlier that there aren't that many bands from there, but the ones that are from there are pretty sizable. Like isn't Alkaline Trio from there? Like
we also have a lot of like pop punk bands that are like newer too that are like still up and like they're doing pretty well.
Right. Like, I mean, I grew up in Maryland, so we had Good Charlotte and All Time Low, and that's it.
Yep.
Both very formidable, and I love them both. But you know, that was the extent of it. And the Dangerous Summer. That's right. They were from Ellicott City. But yeah, I mean, you know, it was. I think, you know, growing up in Maryland and listening to pop punk, it was, you know, it's kind of like existing in a vacuum of no pop punk because it's just, you know, DC, Baltimore, and suburbia, and that's it. But, you know, I mean, all my favorite bands were out of New Jersey and New York and Chicago. You know, that's where everybody was from. Or Florida. That was another big one.
Dude, what is going on in Florida?
It's just so weird. It's like, what's going down on here? Like, I don't get it.
Dude, Mayday Parade, Newfound Glory, Yellowcard, Less Than Jake, Day to Remember. I mean, like, I don't know. There's something in the water down in Florida.
I think it's Florida Man water, first of all, which I don't know if that's one that we want.
You're either going to get a cool band or you're going to, like, eat somebody's face. There is no in between.
No in between.
I was going to say, it's either a great pop punk band or bath salts.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh,
Speaking of Yellowcard, so this EP is coming out on Taillights music group. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's our imprint under Takeover Records. My good friend Ben Harper of Yellowcard.
We saw Ben Harper originally, and we're like, wait, Ben Harper? And it's like Ben Harper of Yellowcard. It's like, oh, okay, Ben Harper of Yellowcard, not Ben Harper.
Right. Yeah. Not Ben Harper. That would have been sick. But
yeah. So yeah, like, how did you get hooked up with them?
Well, Ben and LP were obviously they had that band This Legend that was around a while ago, and I think we did a couple South by shows with them. We definitely shared a publicist. I remember that. And we just connected. It was another one of those crazy things back in the day where, you know, you meet, you get drunk at a festival, and then you keep each other's number for some reason. And, you know, weird twists of fate end up bringing you back together. And he was working in the weed industry around the same time I was. He had a delivery service out in Bear Mountain, California. So we were sort of trading notes as we were navigating our way through that nightmare, because I don't know how much you know about the cannabis industry. It's pretty much the Wild West, like, you know, all the states except for like Colorado.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you guys can't like bank technically because of everything that goes.
That's the biggest thing is the federal banking situation. Also the fact that like states were legalizing it without having the infrastructure in place for anything. So like, you know, California went recreational, but their permitting, you know, process and their licensing process for farms and dispensaries still being developed. So like, you know, places were getting raided and, you know, farms were getting shut down, and, you know, it was nutty trying to, you know, have consistent work there for a while. I think they're working out the kinks now, but there was definitely some time there where, you know, Ben and I would go back and forth and kind of trade strategies and go, dude, how are you troubleshooting this issue? Like, you know, so that was sort of, you know, we sort of cemented our friendship that way. And when it came time to start putting stuff out again, you know, he was the first person I talked to. Like, you know, we did the, you know, the lawyer shopping us around thing, and no one really bit because we were being shopped to pop punk labels that would have no idea what to do with us. So once that was over and done with, I gave him a ring because he actually, you know, he's got this grandfather deal with the Orchard, and he actually wanted me to help him do it help him sort of revamp it. I went to school for music business, and he knew that, so he was like, "Hey, you want to help me like restart a label?" So I was like, "Sure." Will you put my band out on it though? So we're sort of, it was kind of, I think it's funny because Parader is kind of a test run, I think, in a lot of ways for him and for me, just trying to see, like, you know, it's a label, but it's not really a label. It's like, you know, we have distribution through the Orchard. So, you know, it's not like they gave us an advance. You know, they didn't say, Ben didn't go, here's $50K, go spend it. Good luck getting it back. But you know, but honestly, like what it does do is it empowers the artist. Like, you know, the way he set it up is that we still own everything. We own all of our masters. We own all of our publishing. We own everything. All he's taking is a percentage of distribution revenue. So, you know, he doesn't have a claim on, you know, anything really. Well, that's sort of a weird way to say it, but basically,
I mean,
you know,
it's yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy convoluted thing, but suffice to say, he wanted to make it as artist friendly as possible and just sort of give artists back the keys to their own career. And you know what this does, it sort of, you can bypass having to do CD Baby or TuneCore or DistroKid, and you can go, and the Orchard, you know, if you upload to their back end, they go straight to the DSP, so you don't need to worry about it. And there are ways through the Orchard's back end to track your sales and track your analytics, and you know, there's a whole team of label services people that if you run into trouble, they can help you. You know, I mean, I don't know how much they'll work your record, but they are there for any technical support. You know, it's which honestly, you know, is a great thing to be able to call up a human, you know, if something goes wrong. And the Orchard, they really have their stuff together. So I found it really cool to be able to go through them, and I honestly, I hope it's sort of a model for the future, because it really, you know, the thing that I've noticed with a lot of bands is that they get locked into these album deals and they can't get out, and when they do get out, they don't own any of it. Or if they will own some of it, there's like a sunset clause, and it'll get back to them in 15, 20, 40, 50 years. So this way, it's just like, dude, give me 10% of what you rake in on the DSPs and keep everything else. You know, but, you know, obviously, I'm sure it'll evolve, you know, as the years go by and as, you know, we sort of start putting out more and more bands. But, you know, I think Ben's got a good head on his shoulders in terms of what he wants to do with artists and how he wants to treat them and how he wants to help them. And that was something I always thought was cool about him, was like, he was always down to help. And that's not, you know, when you end up in a band that big, you don't always have to be that guy. Ryan Key is not always that guy, but
Oh, okay.
Look, get spicy. It doesn't matter.
We got spicy. We got
sorry.
spicy goss.
I'm not trying to shit talk here. I'm really not.
Look.
Well, hey, I mean, I feel like that's like there are a lot of people out there who, you know, it kind of
MGK
comes down
for
to
like
in a way. MGK is going to come on here and want to start beef.
What's he gonna do?
What's he gonna do?
Well, I'm a vegetarian and I ain't fucking scared of him.
Let's go. But it does kind of come back to like the fact where I love 303.
Absolutely.
Okay. Just making sure that
I think it comes back to like
dead air.
No.
I think it comes back to the fact that like it's kind of like a don't meet your heroes moment in a weird way, because you hope that they're like good people, but then sometimes you're like, oh, you're not that great. Uh-oh. And then you're in like a danger zone situation.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest thing I've noticed is that sometimes the bigger the celebrity, the cooler they are. Like I remember meeting Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, and the two of them they're icons, but they are the chillest people. But then you meet, you know, someone like Ryan Key or someone in a, you know, in sort of a B-level pop punk band, and they have the biggest ego, and you're just like, really? Who the fuck are you? Like,
who the fuck?
Like meeting people
like,
who got really popular off their band in like high school or something, and it's like, dude, like you're in high school. Like
It's like, dude, tell me that you peaked in high school right now.
Yeah, you're 19 years old. Fucking chill, dude.
Calm yourself down.
Yeah.
It is crazy to see some of these really young kids like blowing up though. I mean, like the age for them is getting younger and younger, it seems like. Although maybe we didn't notice how young all these bands were because we were their age. Like, you know, the guys in All Time Low were a year older than me, so I didn't notice that we were all teenagers. You know?
Right. Like we're all just the same people now, and now you're like, oh, these kids don't understand how it's gonna be. The entertainment industry, it's gonna eat them alive, and you're like, dude, get off my lawn.
Man, but it doesn't. They like there are ways around some of the grinding that, you know, bands like them had had to do. I mean, I saw, you know, that kid Jaden, JXDN.
Yeah.
Whatever. Mm-hmm. His third show ever. Third main stage at Lollapalooza. Third show.
Yeah.
Like
insane.
And it was one of those things where, like, from a music business standpoint, I admire the fact that they pulled that off. But as a touring musician, fuck all the way off. Like, are you kidding me? You didn't have to play a single show to nobody to get that as your third fucking... No. You need to eat some shit.
Now, here's what I'll say.
No, this is not okay.
Here's my rebuttal. Is from our era, you know, Panic at the Disco got signed before they had ever played a single show. And they sold 1 million records within their first year of forming, not even their first year of like the record being out. So there were bands like that we look at now and we go, yo, that is like a band from our era. I love everything they've done. And it's like, dude, they didn't eat shit before they were getting really popular too. They had Pete Wentz, but you know, they're not like.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Wentz ate the shit for them to say, not you.
It's not really how I'd put it, but sure.
I mean, but you know, listen.
Right, and that's kind of the bummer of the music industry sometimes. It's like when you're, you know, sort of a bushy-tailed, bright-eyed teenager going, I'm going to start a band and we're going to make it. You know, you don't realize it's not quite a meritocracy, you know? Like, you know, there are bands that will die on the road in vans and not ever get to the next point, you know? And it's, you know, I hate as much as it is sort of my day-to-day now working in it, you know, I mean, I always say that the industry is it's still run on money and nepotism, even though no one really wants to admit it. But, you know, you just proved the point. You know, Panic at the Disco blew up because Pete Wentz was like, let's give them a deal on my imprint under Warner, you know, and they've got all these resources at their fingertips, you know, and a team of people to do everything. I get into this conversation with a lot of other, you know, music people. Now it's just like, you know, when you get signed that early, you don't have to be the one doing everything. Like, you know, I mean, you know, when we were putting out this EP, I was acting as our booking agent, our PR contact, our digital marketing person, you know, our radio promo person. You know, like I had 18 different hats, you know, and that's really, you know, until you get signed, that's what you really have to do. Everyone's got to pitch in and do everything. Unless you're an anomaly and you get picked up immediately, and then you don't have to. Like, and even the bands that, like, you know, bands like All Time Low and the pop punk bands that from our generation who are still going, they were able to blow up before technology became so important to an artist's growth. So like now half of what bands have to do is be posting on IG every day and coming up with shit to put on TikTok and just being active with content. And that was not something that they had to worry about. And by the time that they did, there was an entire label of people to help them. So I think independent bands now have it a lot harder. Independent musicians have it a lot harder just because there's so much more to do. And there's so many different avenues to go down. And trying to make sense of it all by yourself it's damn near, like, the learning curve is really steep. So, you know, to the musicians who are out there doing it, you know, DIYing it and making it, like, more power to you, just because the task is so daunting. And and music business people, they don't, you know, the most valuable asset they have is time and brain space. So, you know, a lot of times a lot of people want to help, but they just have so much on their plate that they can't. So it's incumbent on the artist to do everything. And I think it's, you know, is it fair? Not really, but you know, there's not much you could do about it, unfortunately. It's just kind of an is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's try to help you get really popular and famous, and let's toss out some plugs. Let's find out, you know, where people can find you on the internet, where people can stream the record, and also you have an upcoming show on May 10th.
Yeah,
and it's with Lit.
It is with Lit. Oh man, you know, it's funny talking about all this pop punk stuff. Lit was one of those 90s acts, like that was so 90s rock, but I guess by virtue of emo night playing that song over and over, they just kind of got subsumed into the emo scene.
Yeah.
And now it's and now it's like a, you know, across the board respected pop punk hit is My Own Worst Enemy, and everybody knows how to play it. I mean, so, like, you know, two of the guys in my band are, like, they're rep players, and they do a lot of dueling piano gigs and request gigs in New York, and they play that song every night. So they're, you know, talking about opening for that band. They're just like, this is going to be surreal, dude. I know that song inside and out. Probably as much as they do, because I get paid to play it 3 times a week every week, you know? Yep. It's so cool, man. They're great. We're going to be, I don't know if I can... I'll give a hint. We're going to see them again and be playing with them again at a very large festival in your neck of the woods this summer.
Oh,
Curious and interesting.
Yeah, I'll let you know off the air. But it's going to be we're super stoked to meet them. Obviously, we all grew up with that CD, and you know, it's going to be fun. And to answer your earlier question, we're on all of the things at Parader NYC. Is our handles. So Facebook, Instagram, I think TikTok, we're Parader Official. We have paradermusic.com as our website, and we're on all the DSPs, all the Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, whatever. However you consume music, we are there.
That reminds me, I need to cancel my Tidal subscription.
Oh.
I was trying it out. It's not...
Was that when everybody was like, fuck Spotify, everyone go there? And we were like, should we get on Tidal? And then we're like, their podcast sector is very highly underdeveloped. Yeah.
And it's all like celebrity podcasts. And I was like, I want like artists to get paid, but Tidal just doesn't really have the algorithmic side of it down yet. Like, that's the reason Spotify's used, is because they're like, yo, we think you'd like this. And they're oftentimes right. And Tidal is just like, well, we know you like a lot of these big artists, so you want to just listen to them all the time? And it's like, yeah, but also like,
I mean, like to discover something new.
Yeah. And it's like, you go to first page and I put in like, yeah, I like Bring Me the Horizon, the 1975, My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, like, show me what you got. And it's like, hey, you know, Jay-Z owns this platform. Do you want to listen to Jay-Z? And it's like, I mean,
well, listen, that's a nice thought, but
yeah, and I don't hate Jay-Z by any stretch, but I'm like, I didn't put in anything near that.
Actually, they took all that and they said, wait, you want the Linkin Park featuring Jay-Z Reanimation, right?
That would have been...
That's what we're looking for.
Perfect. That would have been right up my alley.
Here's the one song on the Fall Out Boy record that has Jay-Z in the beginning for 3 seconds. Here you go.
Welcome. It's here. Dude, that song fucking rules, though. If it was like
that song rips. Oh man,
I put that on my graduation cap for my master's degree last year, and it just says "Welcome, it's here."
That's awesome.
She came out to just a triplet breakdown. It's like, why did Lizzie get her own theme music? Nobody else did.
Well, why not?
Just paid somebody off in the sound booth to just hit play real quick.
They call me Lizzie the Thriller.
No.
Dude, we had when I graduated college, we had Bill Clinton as our graduation speaker.
Really?
And I was making the joke that I was like, I want to talk to whoever's going to be in the sound booth, and before he comes up to the speech, have them play that song, Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta. I was like, please, just someone do it, just for me. It's just for me.
I paid all this money. I had all this time. Just Says a
Oh, that would have been so good.
That would have been so fucking funny.
And like that would have been such a memeable moment now
Right.
that like everybody would know that it happened.
Yeah. It was, my own little crazy brain going, that would be hilarious if someone did that.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen, but I would like to believe that it could.
You just got to like put it out there, you write it down and you just like slide that napkin to somebody and you go, I don't know, man. Like if it happens, it happens.
Oh, no,
but,
think
Right.
about it. Think about it.
if it happens, it happens.
I'm not walking here.
I'm not walking.
saying do it.
I'm not saying do it, but what I'm saying is you
I'm
want
not
your
saying not
gabas,
do it
ghoul. You got to ghoul your gabas or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll wrap the pod there. We'll hang out on Twitch for a little bit. But yeah, go listen to Parader. Find the EP. It is out now if you're listening to this episode recorded version. And yeah, get tickets to see Lit. Get lit, y'all.
yeah.
'Cause
And then, keep an
So-
eye out for whenever this other show is coming to our neck of the woods, which is Chicago area.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it'll be good. I was going to say the show's on May 10th. It's at Le Poussin Rouge in New York City. If you're local in the West Village, it's going to be a fun time. Come out.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll end it there. But Zach, thank you so much for hanging
thanks,
out with us
dude.
tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me and letting me talk your ears off for a minute.
Anytime.